The whole town came to watch her hang, but none of them expected the devil they feared most, to call her his wife. Evelyn Carter didn't flinch when the judge read the charge. Murder in the first degree. She stood tall in shackles, her face streaked with dust, a dried line of blood at her temple. Her dress was torn, her boots scuffed from the drag across Main Street. Yet her blue eyes, piercing and wild, scanned the crowd like a hawk in a henhouse. The courtroom smelled of sweat and old pine. Every seat was filled. Some came for justice, others for entertainment. But all believed one thing: Evelyn Carter was guilty. "She shot Luther Briggs right in the gut," barked Sheriff Boone, wiping his brow with a stained kerchief. "Didn't give the boy a chance." "Did he give her one?" a quiet voice muttered, quickly hushed. The judge banged his gavel. "Miss Carter, did you shoot Mr. Briggs in cold blood?" Evelyn raised her chin. "I shot him because he didn't understand no." A gasp fluttered through the room like a flock of startled birds. "I screamed for help," she said, voice trembling for the first time. "No one came, so I made sure he never hurt another girl." The judge's face darkened. "This court is not here to entertain your justifications." She smiled bitterly. "It never has been." Wind moaned through the open window. Dust swirled. In the sunlight like ghosts listening in. Evelyn stood alone, unflinching, unforgiven. The prosecutor leaned forward. "You're not married. You have no kin. You've always been peculiar, independent. Men don't like that." Evelyn turned, her voice like a whip. "No, men like control, and when they lose it, they call it murder." Outside, the old saloon doors creaked. At first, no one noticed. Then came the sound. Boots, slow, heavy, purposeful. A shadow crossed the wooden floor outside. The double doors burst open. Gasps broke like waves. A man stepped in, broad-shouldered, dressed in black, a Colt peacemaker on each hip. A scar curved across his jaw. His hat dipped low, hiding eyes that had seen war and wickedness. Whispers ripped through the courtroom. "Is that... No! It can't be!" But Evelyn knew. He walked straight to the middle of the room, every step a warning. Then, in a voice, like gravel soaked in whiskey, he said the words that froze the judge mid-sentence. "She's my wife." A silence fell over the room so thick, even the creaking floorboards held their breath. The man in black stood in the doorway like a storm-given shape. Every man over 30 knew his face, even if they'd prayed never to see it again. Wade Harlan. Name once whispered across saloons and wanted posters from New Mexico to Deadwood, gun for hire, killer, legend, dead, or so they thought. And now he was standing here, claiming the most hated woman in town as his wife. The judge leaned forward, his voice unsteady. "Excuse me, did you say—" "I said what I said," Wade growled. "Now unshackle her." Sheriff Boone stood up, hand hovering near his revolver. "Wade, this is a court of law. She's under trial. You can't just barge in here making—" But Wade's hand moved faster than lightning, not to his gun, but to his coat pocket. He tossed something onto the floor near the judge. A marriage certificate. Worn. Water-stained. Real. "Married in Yuma," Wade said. 3 years ago. You just never cared enough to ask her who she belonged to." Evelyn's hands trembled, not with fear but memory. She hadn't seen Wade in years. Thought he was gone, like everyone else who ever swore to protect her. She met his eyes. That same storm still brewed there. But there was something else, too. Regret. The judge, flustered, adjusted his collar. "This doesn't change the fact she shot a man dead in the middle of town." Wade's boots echoed as he stepped forward. What if the man deserved it? The room erupted in murmurs. The townsfolk had always known Luther Briggs wasn't just a banker's son. He was a spoiled, dangerous animal. But no one ever said it out loud, because no one had ever dared, until now. Wade's voice dropped low, aimed straight at the judge's pride. You all let a predator walk free. But the moment a woman defends herself, you want a rope around her neck. The judge slammed his gavel. Enough! This is my courtroom! Wade's eyes didn't blink. Not anymore. He turned to Evelyn. You ready to go home, darling? Evelyn's throat tightened. The man who once vanished into the desert was back. And now, he was standing between her and the hangman's noose. But trust had a price in her world, and Wade Harlan had disappeared once before. Evelyn didn't answer Wade right away. Her wrists still burned from the iron cuffs. Her throat was dry, her mind racing. How many nights had she cried alone thinking he was dead? And now he was here, turning the whole town upside down with just 5 words. You ready to go home, darling? Home. She couldn't even remember what that word felt like anymore. The judge stood, trying to regain control. This court isn't finished. Miss Carter is still on trial. Wade didn't budge. Then finish it. He turned slowly, scanning the rows of townspeople. His voice was sharp, steady, and cold enough to slice through bone. Tell the court what Luther Briggs did to her. Tell them how many times she screamed. Tell them how you looked away. No one spoke. A man coughed nervously. Mrs. Rollins, the preacher's wife, lowered her gaze to her lap. Wade stepped toward the jury box. You want to hang someone? Hang yourselves. You all knew what he was. You just didn't care until blood spilled on your precious wooden floors. Evelyn closed her eyes. She remembered that night too well. The alley behind the saloon, Luther's hot breath, the smell of whiskey on his collar. How she begged, how he laughed, and how no one came. Until it was too late. Sheriff Boone finally stepped forward, his hand back on his holster. Now hold on, Wade. I know you think you're saving her, but you're breaking the law. She's still a suspect, and you're... Wade raised one brow. You aiming to stop me, Boone? Boone's hand twitched, but his feet stayed planted. Everyone remembered what happened the last time someone drew on Wade Harlan. He'd put 2 men in the ground before either could blink. Wade turned back to Evelyn. You don't owe them anything, Eve. Not your story. Not your tears, not your life. Her breath caught. No one had called her Eve in years. Not since Wade. The judge cleared his throat. This town has laws, Mr. Harlan. Wade stared him down. So does the desert. He held out his hand. Come with me. Evelyn looked at the courtroom, at the same faces that judged her, betrayed her, abandoned her. Then she looked at Wade, the devil she once loved. And slowly, she took his hand. As Evelyn's fingers curled into Wade's calloused palm, the entire courtroom seemed to exhale, not in relief, but in fear. Because now the noose wasn't around her neck. It was around the town's conscience. Wade didn't look back as he led her through the swinging saloon doors. The wind outside had shifted, hot, dry, like it carried warning. Boots scuffed the dust behind them, but no one followed. Not even the sheriff. Not yet. Outside, Main Street sat in stunned silence. The gallows still stood, casting a long shadow over the jailhouse wall. Evelyn glanced at them once, then turned her face to the setting sun. Wade's horse stood tied out front, black as midnight, just like the stories said. Evelyn hesitated. You sure about this? She whispered. Wade helped her onto the saddle. You gave this town everything, and they left you to burn. I'm just giving you the ashes. They rode out slow at first, but by the time the last rooftops faded behind them, Wade had pushed the horse into a full gallop. The wind pulled at Evelyn's hair. The air tasted like freedom and guilt. She gripped the saddle tight, leaning into him. Why now, Wade? Why come back after all these years? His jaw tightened. I heard about Luther. You weren't there. I should have been. The desert swallowed their words. Finally, they reached a rocky outcrop a few miles outside of town. Wade stopped. The horse helped her down and walked toward a shallow ridge where a small hidden cabin sat tucked against the canyon wall. Evelyn stared, You kept this place? I built it for us. Back when I thought we had a future. She stepped inside. Everything was the same. The tin kettle on the stove, the worn quilt, the single photograph. A younger Evelyn smiling under a cottonwood tree. It hurt to see. I thought you were dead, she whispered. I was, Wade said quietly, until I heard they were about to hang the only woman I ever loved. He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. But this time, Eve. I'm not leaving. The moon hung heavy above the canyon, bathing the ridge in silver. Inside the cabin, Evelyn sat near the crackling hearth, wrapping her bruised wrists with a damp cloth. Wade moved quietly, lighting an oil lamp, his eyes scanning the window like he expected shadows to follow them, because he knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. They'll come for me, Wade, Evelyn said softly. Maybe not tonight, but soon. Wade didn't look at her. He just loaded his rifle slow, deliberate. Let 'em come. She studied him. And if they kill you this time? He met her gaze then, eyes filled with something she hadn't seen in years, the weight of everything unsaid. Then I'll die with my boots on, but not before they know who they're messing with. Evelyn shook her head, bitter laughter escaping. You're still the same damn fool. Wade grinned. You married that fool, remember? She smiled for the first time in what felt like years, but the smile didn't last long, because a noise echoed through the canyon, faint but sharp. Hoofbeats. Wade's posture stiffened. He moved to the window, pulled the curtain back just a inch. Down in the gulch, torchlights flickered like fireflies, 5 or 6 riders, maybe more, making their way up the trail. Evelyn stood, her heart pounding. Is it the sheriff? No, Wade muttered. Boone ain't got that kind of nerve. These boys, they ain't law. They're bloodhounds. Briggs's kin? Probably. Or hired guns from Silverton. Either way, they ain't here to talk. He handed her a revolver. Her hand trembled as she took it. You remember how to shoot? He asked. I remember everything. That sentence carried more than bullets ever could. Wade moved outside, quiet as a panther, setting traps in the brush, checking the high ground, planning every move like a man who'd cheated death too many times. Inside, Evelyn stared at the old photograph on the mantel. Her younger self looked so full of hope. How far she'd fallen from that girl. But maybe, just maybe, she was still in there, somewhere. She turned to the door, gripped the revolver tight, and followed Wade into the night. Because if death was coming, she'd rather meet it beside the only man who ever called her more than just trouble. The wind had shifted again, hot, restless, like it could sense what was coming. Evelyn crouched behind the stacked firewood near the cabin door, her revolver held tight, hands shaking slightly. Wade was just ahead in the brush, rifle aimed steady, one eye scanning the ridgeline like a hawk. The riders were closer now. The torches danced like angry ghosts. Evelyn's breath came in short bursts. How many you count? Wade didn't turn. 6, maybe 7, one's hanging back, likely the one with the grudge. Her jaw clenched. Briggs' brother. Or worse. Could be someone paid to make an example out of you. These towns love martyrs, as long as they're not breathing. Evelyn swallowed hard. Why'd you come back, Wade? She whispered. The truth. He took a slow breath. Because when I heard they were gonna hang you, I realized I never stopped loving you. And if I had to die anywhere, I'd rather it be next to you. Silence hung between them like the pause before thunder. Then, a gunshot cracked through the canyon. Wood splintered just inches from Evelyn's face. She dropped flat, heart pounding in her ears. Wade fired back, fast and precise. One rider's torch tumbled to the dirt, rolling like a dying comet. They've got the high ground, Wade shouted. We fall back behind the shed. Evelyn crawled low, darting between brush and rock. More shots rang out, angry, panicked, wild. The cabin door blew open from a blast, the photograph inside bursting into shards of glass and memory. Wade tackled her behind the old water trough, pulling her down just as another bullet whizzed. Passed. I ain't losing you, Eve, he growled. She stared at him, eyes wide, hair wild, breath ragged. Then stop treating me like I need saving. And before Wade could answer, she stood, aimed, and fired. A rider dropped, dead weight in the moonlight. Wade blinked. A flicker of pride lit his face. Still the best damn shot in Texas. But they weren't out yet. More riders circled. This was no random posse. It was a message, and Wade and Evelyn. They were the ones meant to be silenced. But not tonight. Tonight they were ready to write their names in blood and fire. The night raged on like a storm without rain. Gunpowder and fire filled the canyon air. Every breath Evelyn took tasted like smoke and memory. She and Wade huddled behind the broken-down shed, pinned under a rain of bullets. The torches lit the brush around them in flickers of gold and crimson. The scent of scorched wood was thick. The cabin behind them now burned slow, crackling like the end of something sacred. But neither of them looked back. Evelyn reloaded, her revolver with shaking hands, her fingers smeared in dust and blood. "We can't hold this position forever," she said, voice hoarse. Wade's jaw was tight, eyes locked toward the ridge. "I ain't planning to." A pause, then a sound. Neither of them expected. A whistle. Low, drawn out, familiar. Wade's head jerked toward the canyon trail. "What is it?" Evelyn asked, but Wade was already standing, rifle at the ready, eyes narrowed into the distance. From the shadows beyond the torchlight, another rider emerged, alone. Tall in the saddle, long duster coat trailing behind, black hat low over his brow. His horse kicked up dust that shimmered silver under the moon. The other gunman turned, confused. So was Evelyn. Who the hell, but Wade already knew. "That," he said slowly, "is Eli Cutter." Evelyn's blood turned cold. Eli Cutter, the man even the law was afraid to cross. A bounty hunter, a ghost, a killer who didn't take sides, only payment. "Is he here for us?" she whispered. "I don't know," Wade answered. "But he don't ride out unless there's blood in the wind." The other riders froze as Eli dismounted. Calm. Silent. He didn't even reach for his gun. He just looked up at the leader of the gang. A broad-shouldered man with a red bandana and a scar across his cheek. "You Briggs's brother?" Eli asked, voice gravel and steel. The man nodded. "You here to help or to stare?" Eli tilted his head. "Neither." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his coat, flicked it toward the gang. It landed in the dirt. A wanted poster. The man bent to read it and froze, because it wasn't Wade's face. It was his own, Briggs's brother, wanted for murder in Missouri. $800 dead or alive. "Y'all came out here for a hanging," Eli said, slowly reaching for his gun. "I came for a payday." Then the canyon lit up with gunfire again, only this time it wasn't Wade and Evelyn caught in the crossfire. It was the men who came for them. Evelyn watched in stunned silence as Eli Cutter moved like smoke and thunder. Every shot found its mark. In less than a minute, the dust settled. 4 men dead. 2 fled into the brush like scared dogs. Briggs's brother bled out in the dirt. Wade lowered his rifle. Eli turned to him. "Still getting into trouble over women." "Huh, Wade," Wade grinned. "Only the one worth dying for." Eli looked at Evelyn. "You his wife?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Good," Eli said, mounting his horse again. "Then maybe he'll finally stop running." And just like that, he vanished into the canyon night, leaving only bodies behind, and a new chapter to be written. Dawn bled into the sky like a slow wound. The fires had died down, leaving behind the black skeleton of what used to be Evelyn's cabin. Smoke curled upward, gray and tired. The scent of burnt wood clung to everything. Skin, hair, memory. Evelyn stood barefoot in the ash, arms folded, watching the last ember die. Wade came up behind her, slow and quiet. "You all right?" She didn't answer at first, just stared at the scorched remains of her life. "That cabin was all I had left." Wade looked around. "Wasn't much." She turned, eyes sharp. "It was mine." He nodded. "I get it. I do." Silence stretched between them. Evelyn broke it. "You really would have let them hang me back in town, wouldn't you, if I hadn't run?" Wade swallowed hard. "I was scared." "Of them?" "No," he said, voice low. "Of what it would mean to fight for you again. After all we lost." Evelyn stepped closer. "And now?" "I'd burn this whole damn town to the ground if it meant keeping you safe." She didn't smile. Didn't cry, just reached out and touched his cheek, the scar running along his jaw from a fight long forgotten. "You always did talk better after a shootout," she said. He caught her hand and held it. "I'm tired of running, Eve," he whispered. "Let's stop pretending we ain't still in love." She looked at him, really looked, past the dust, the grit, the years that had carved new lines on his face. The man she once loved was still there. Wade leaned in, slow, uncertain, like asking permission with every breath, and Evelyn let him. Their kiss wasn't like those in stories. It wasn't soft or sweet. It was rough, earned, built from pain and survival and all the words left unsaid. When they pulled apart, Evelyn rested her forehead against his. "So what now?" "We ride," Wade said. "Not away, just forward." She nodded. But just as they turned to pack their saddlebags, a single shot echoed across the ridge. Both dropped to the dirt. Wade rolled, gun in hand, scanning the hills. Silence. Then, a voice. Distant, cold, familiar. "Thought you could hide, Wade Coulter. Thought wrong." Evelyn's heart sank. She recognized the voice, too. Marshal Silas Granger, the lawman who once promised Wade he'd bury him himself. The name Silas Granger hit Wade like a hammer to the chest. He hadn't heard that voice in 5 years, not since the night he left a trail of blood in Wyoming and vanished into the shadows of Texas. Granger wasn't just any lawman. He was the kind who didn't bring men in. He brought them down. Wade pulled Evelyn behind a boulder. "Stay low. He don't miss twice." Evelyn's breath was caught in her throat. "I thought you said we were done running." "We are," Wade growled, cocking his rifle. "But we ain't done fighting." From the ridgeline, the tall figure of Marshal Silas Granger emerged, silhouetted by the rising sun. Black hat, long coat, tin star on his chest catching the light like a blade. He didn't look tired. He looked hungry. Granger raised his voice, calm but lethal. "I gave you 5 years, Coulter. Figured you'd bury yourself with the ghosts. But here you are, and what's this? Hiding behind a woman?" Evelyn stepped out from behind the rock. "I'm not hiding behind anyone," she called out. "But maybe it's time someone stood beside him." Granger tilted his head, amused. "Well, ain't that sweet? You're both under arrest. Obstruction, harboring a fugitive, murder of a federal informant." Wade stiffened. "That man wasn't no informant. He was a killer in disguise. You knew that." Granger's eyes narrowed. "I know you took justice into your own hands, and that don't fly in my territory." The wind blew harder. Dust rose around them like the spirits of the past whispering warnings. "Evelyn," Wade muttered. "You still got that rifle stashed under the trough?" She nodded. "Always." "Good. If he draws—" "I don't miss," she finished. Granger slowly stepped forward, one hand on his holster. "This doesn't have to end with blood, Wade. You come with me now. Maybe I put in a word for leniency." "She walks." Wade's jaw tightened. "And if I don't?" Granger smiled, cold and slow. "Then I write the final chapter of the Wade Coulter legend with a bullet." Evelyn took a slow breath. "Then you better spell my name right," she said, cocking her rifle. In that moment, time hung still, A hawk screamed overhead. Granger's fingers twitched, and Wade's heart pounded not from fear, but from the weight of all that had come before. He'd run for years, but now he had something to stand for. Someone. And he wasn't going down without a fight. Granger moved first, a flicker of motion. His hand darted to his holster like lightning, but Wade was faster. 2 shots cracked across the valley like thunder. Dirt kicked up at Granger's feet as Wade rolled behind the trough. Evelyn fired a heartbeat later, her bullet grazing Granger's shoulder, sending him stumbling back with a snarl. Wade shouted, "He's bleeding! We've got the ridge!" They sprinted toward the barn, ducking low as gunfire echoed behind them. Inside the barn, they slammed the doors shut and braced them with a timber beam. Dust danced in shafts of light, cutting through broken planks. Wade leaned back against the wall, panting. "You okay?" Evelyn nodded, chest heaving. "Yeah. You?" He smirked. "Still breathing." A sharp whistle split the air. Then came the sound of horses. Wade's face went cold. He didn't come alone. Evelyn peeked through the slats. 3 riders, all armed, look like bounty scum. "They ain't here to arrest," Wade said grimly. "They're here to collect a corpse." For a moment, silence wrapped around them. Evelyn's voice shook. "We can't win this, Wade." He stepped close, took her face in both hands. "Then we don't win. We survive. We make it out. And we start over." Evelyn blinked back tears. "You think we still got that chance? I think you're the only thing worth fighting for." A thud outside the barn snapped them back. Then, boom! A stick of dynamite exploded near the side wall, throwing Evelyn to the ground. Smoke and splinters rained down. Wade scrambled to her, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "Evelyn!" She groaned but nodded. "Still here." Outside, Granger's voice rang out through the smoke. "Last chance, Coulter! Walk out, or we tear the whole place down!" Wade's fists clenched. Every instinct told him to fight, but something else pulled at him. Not revenge, not pride. Love. He turned to Evelyn. "There's a trap door under the feed barrels. It leads to the creek bed. We can slip out." She hesitated. "You mean run again?" "No," he said. "We live." Together, they pushed the barrels aside and climbed into the dark crawl space. As the barn above shook with gunfire and shouts, Wade reached back and sealed the trap door. He took one last look at the life he was leaving behind, again, and then followed the woman who had once been his reason to leave, and was now his reason to stay. The tunnel was dark and damp, carved decades ago by moonshiners who needed quick escapes more than solid walls. Wade led the way, crouched low, one hand on his pistol, the other gripping Evelyn's wrist. Behind them, the faint thuds of boots and distant shouts echoed through the wooden trapdoor, but faded as the creek's whisper grew louder. They emerged behind a cluster of willows just beyond the barn, concealed by brush and the winding stream. Evelyn inhaled the morning air like it was the first breath of her life. "We made it." "For now," Wade said, eyes scanning the ridge. "Granger ain't the kind to quit." They waded into the shallow water, the current cold against their legs, their steps silent. Wade's horse, Ash, waited where he always left him, hidden behind a boulder, reins looped loosely around a branch. He helped Evelyn into the saddle, then climbed up behind her. As they rode, her back pressed to his chest, neither of them spoke. Not out of fear, but because silence was the only thing gentle left in that moment. Hours passed. The plains opened up before them like a sea of gold and shadow. Finally, at the edge of a canyon, they stopped. Below, an old miner's shack leaned drunkenly against a cliffside, abandoned but intact. Wade helped her down. "We rest here, just for the night." Evelyn looked at the shack, then at him. "You ever gonna tell me the whole story?" Wade leaned on the fence, gaze distant. "Which part? The one where I killed a man to save a town, or the one where I lost everything after?" She stepped closer. The part where you stopped trusting yourself. He looked at her then. Really looked. When you left that day, Eve, I thought I deserved it. I thought maybe I was meant to ride alone. And now? Now, he whispered. I know I was just waiting for someone who'd ride beside me. She touched his cheek, soft and lingering. Then stop waiting. As twilight painted the sky in violet and fire, they stepped inside the shack. Dust clung to old furniture. A cracked mirror hung over the hearth. Wade lit a match and set a small fire in the stone pit. For the first time in years, warmth filled the room, and something else too. Hope. Later, lying on a bed of old quilts, Evelyn stared at the wooden ceiling. Do you think he'll come for us? Wade didn't move. Granger ain't done. Not yet. But next time, we'll be ready. He reached over, took her hand. Outside, a coyote howled, and on the far ridge, under the cover of night, a lone rider watched the flicker of firelight from a distance. Marshall. Granger didn't believe in happy endings. Not for men like Wade Coulter, and not for women who dared love them. The morning sun hadn't yet cleared the canyon when Granger reached the charred remains of the barn. Smoke still curled from blackened beams. His boot crunched over broken glass as he stepped through the ash. He knelt, fingertips brushing a trail of blood. Still fresh, he muttered, rising. His eyes narrowed at the feed barrels. Then he spotted it. Faint footprints leading to the stream. A grim smile tugged at his lips. You're running, Coulter, but I've hunted worse than you. He turned to his men, all lean-eyed bounty hunters hardened by desert and death. Split north and west, watch the water line. He won't get far. 2 valleys away, Evelyn stirred beside the dying fire. Wade was already outside, sharpening his knife on a whetstone, eyes scanning the horizon. She stepped beside him, arms folded against the morning chill. You think he's out there? He didn't look up. I know he is. Her voice lowered. I had a dream last night. I was back in town, but no one knew me. I was just a ghost passing through. Wade finally looked at her. You ain't a ghost, Evelyn. You're the only real thing I've had in years. Before she could speak, a sound cracked through the canyon, a rifle shot. Wade grabbed his gun and pulled Evelyn down behind the boulder. Another shot rang out, this one closer. He peeked around the rock, spotting movement in the ridges. 1 man, then 2. They found us. Can we run? No, but we can even the odds. He handed her a pistol. Stay behind cover. If they come down, aim low, knees and thighs, hurts more. Her hands trembled as she took it, but her voice didn't shake. Let them try. Meanwhile, Granger wasn't with the shooters. He was already moving through the canyon's far edge, alone, calculated. He wasn't just tracking Wade, he was hunting Evelyn. He had seen her face once, long ago, in a courtroom filled with smoke and lies. The girl who stood for a man like Wade Coulter. The girl who defied a town, a badge, and a law. And now, she was his key. Not to justice, to vengeance. Back near the shack, the first bounty hunter slipped closer, moving from tree to tree. Wade tracked him with narrowed eyes, waited until the man stepped into a patch of sunlight. Bang! He dropped like a stone. The second man fired wildly, bullets hitting rocks and dust. Evelyn held her breath and squeezed the trigger. The shot went wide, but it forced the attacker to duck, buying Wade time to flank. Another shot, and silence fell. Wade returned, face grim. 2 down, but they were just bait. A chill ran through Evelyn. Then where's Granger? Wade turned toward the north ridge. He's already coming. And far beyond, up in the rocks, Marshal Granger adjusted the noose hanging from his saddle horn. A warning. Not for Wade, but for Evelyn. The wind howled through the canyon like a warning. Dust swirled near the shack as Wade saddled Ash in haste. You'll ride west, he told Evelyn, strapping the rifle to her saddle. Stick to the river trail. Stay low. I'll draw them off north. Evelyn's eyes widened. Wade, no. We stay together. He cupped her cheek gently. Eve, if he catches both of us, it's over. But if we split, one of us makes it out. Her voice cracked. You mean me? He kissed her forehead, soft and quick. I'll find you. 2 days. Sweetwater Gulch. Old church ruins. Then he turned, mounted, and vanished into the canyon like smoke. Evelyn stood alone, heart thundering louder than her horse's hooves. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She simply mounted up, gritted her teeth, and rode west. By sunset, she was deep into the woods, the shadows long and strange. Every creak of the trees made her flinch. Her horse slowed to a walk near the riverbank, ears twitching. That's when she saw it. A man, tall, still as a tombstone, leaning against a twisted oak, arms folded, hat tipped low, Marshall Granger. He stepped forward slowly, like a snake uncoiling. Evening, Mrs. Coulter. Evelyn's hand went to her pistol. He said smoothly, lifting a long-barreled revolver. You're brave, I'll give you that, but not faster than me. She didn't move. What do you want? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I want the truth. I want to hear from your mouth that you know what he is. She kept her gaze steady. He's a good man. Better than you. Granger's eyes narrowed. He's a killer. She didn't blink. He killed a man who deserved it. Granger stepped closer. And you think that makes him worth loving? She raised her chin. It makes him worth dying for. For the first time, Granger's composure cracked. Just a flicker. Just enough. He holstered his weapon slowly. You're not the girl I remember. All dresses in courtrooms. Now you're running, hiding, lying. Evelyn's voice was steady. And you? Still wearing a badge to cover the rot underneath? That hit home. His jaw tightened. You'll regret that. She stepped off the horse. Then shoot me, or let me go. But I won't beg. Silence stretched between them. Then, to her shock, Granger turned and walked away. No words, no threats, just a single glance back, and a grin that made her skin crawl. He wasn't finished. He was planning something worse, something cruel. As night fell, Evelyn rode faster, heart pounding. Wade was out there alone, and the marshal had just declared war, not with bullets, but with mind games. Wade rode hard through the pine-covered pass, wind slicing his face like a blade. The sky had turned a bruised orange, the sun barely holding onto the horizon. He didn't stop until Ash began to pant, sides heaving. Wade dismounted and led him into a thicket, tying him beside a moss-covered boulder. He crouched, listening. The canyon was too quiet. No birds, no rustling. Then, a click. Too late. A bear trap snapped around his leg. Pain shot through him like lightning. He cried out, falling hard, blood already seeping through his pants. From the shadows, slow boots approached. Wade reached for his gun, but a boot stomped down on his wrist. Still fast. But not fast enough, said a voice deep and grating. Wade looked up into the face of a man he thought long dead, Jeb Rollins, scarred, one eye milky white, mouth curled in a permanent sneer. Jeb, Wade muttered, groaning. They said you were hanged in Cheyenne. Jeb chuckled. I was. Rope broke. Devil don't want me, Wade. He leaned close, stinking of whiskey and old blood. And guess who paid to set me free? Granger. Wade's jaw clenched. Figures. Jeb walked around him, casual. You got a woman now, pretty one. Quiet type. I saw her in the papers when. They said you stood trial. He knelt, tapping the metal of the trap. Granger said I could have you slow, but if I kill the girl first, he'll double the coin. Wade's eyes burned. You won't touch her. Jeb grinned. Then scream loud enough, Cowboy. Maybe she'll hear it. Wade lunged, but the trap held him down. Iron teeth sunk deep. Jeb turned, whistling, and disappeared into the trees. Wade lay there, heart pounding, the pine needles soaked red beneath him. He closed his eyes. Images flooded his mind. Evelyn's smile. Her hand in his, her voice in the cold wind. He wouldn't die here. Not like this. Hours passed. He tore his shirt into a strip, wrapped the leg, broke a branch into a crutch. He forced himself up, face pale, trembling. Each step was fire. But he moved. He had to find her. He had to warn her. Elsewhere, Evelyn sat in a hollow beneath a rocky outcrop, staring into the flickering firelight. She could feel the storm building, not in the sky but in her chest. She wasn't just scared. She was, preparing. She checked her pistol, reloaded the bullets with shaking fingers. Then she opened Wade's satchel. Inside, beneath old maps and dried jerky, she found something wrapped in cloth. A letter, addressed to her. With trembling hands, she unfolded it. If you're reading this, I didn't make it back. Tears welled in her eyes as she read his words, rough, scribbled, but full of love. You were my second chance, Evelyn. Not just at life, at being a man. If I fall, don't run. Don't hide. Finish it. Live free. She pressed the letter to her chest, whispering, You're not gone. You're coming back. But even as she said it, the wind shifted. And she knew something was wrong. Something was coming, and it wore the face of a ghost from Wade's past. The morning was cold, sky heavy with steel-gray clouds. Evelyn packed quietly, stuffing Wade's letter into her coat, fingers trembling but firm. Every rustle of leaves made her flinch. Then, hoofbeats. Not many. Just one rider. She backed into the rocks, pistol in hand, breath caught in her throat. From the mist came a silhouette. Long duster coat, slouched hat, and a presence like death itself. He dismounted slow, boots crunching gravel. Morning, darlin', he rasped. Name's Jeb. Wade and I go way back. Evelyn didn't lower the gun. Step back, he grinned with broken teeth. Oh, you got fire, that's cute. He took a step forward. She fired, missed by an inch. Jeb flinched but didn't stop. Easy now, don't waste your bullets. I ain't here to hurt you. Yet. Evelyn's hand shook, but her voice was steady. Where is he? Jeb took off, his hat revealing the white dead eye and the long scar that cut through his brow. He's busy bleeding under a pine tree somewhere. Left him a little present in the canyon. Her heart plummeted. But she didn't show it. You're lying, she snapped. Jeb chuckled. Wish I was. But see, Granger wants to clean house. He promised me gold, and you're just a bonus. She raised the gun again. Come closer, and I swear. He raised his hands mockingly. All right, how about a deal? She narrowed her eyes. What kind of deal? He leaned on his saddle horn, casual. You come with me, quiet-like. Granger gets to parade you around town, make Wade watch, make the people see what happens when you cross the badge. You fight, you scream, I start breaking bones. She said nothing, just stared. Jeb tilted his head. No? All right then. He turned, slow. Started to mount. That's when Evelyn saw it. Wade's knife still tucked in the back of his belt. Her breath caught. He'd taken it off Wade after trapping him, which meant Wade had survived long enough to fight, maybe even escape. Hope surged. Wee eyes. Jeb swung onto his horse. Evelyn whispered, Tell Granger I'm not afraid of him. Jeb smirked. That's good. Fear wrinkles the face. And he rode off, but not too fast. He was toying with her, letting her feel the noose tighten. As the dust settled, Evelyn dropped to her knees. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the fire rising in her chest. She opened Wade's saddlebag and pulled out the worn black notebook he used to write down old outlaw contacts. On the last page, a name, Beau Creeley, gunsmith, drifter, debt unpaid. lives east of Devil's Wash. She saddled her horse and muttered, "If Wade's alive, I'll find him, and if he's not, I'll burn the town to the ground." Elsewhere, Wade limped through the wilderness, blood drying on his leg. His breath came ragged, but he didn't stop. Every step was agony, but her face kept him moving. When Neoin, he reached the river bend, he collapsed beneath a cedar and whispered her name, "Evelyn." Above him, a shadow moved. Boots, not Jeb's. A tall man, long gray coat, shotgun slung on his back. "You Wade Coulter?" the stranger asked, voice like gravel. Wade nodded weakly. The man crouched. "Name's Bo Creeley. The girl sent me." The town of Clearwater lay silent under a sky smudged with storm clouds. Dust curled along the main street, brushing against wooden posts and empty rocking chairs. The saloon doors creaked in the wind, and far off, thunder grumbled like a warning from God. Evelyn sat tall in the saddle, eyes locked on the town's entrance. Her black coat whipped behind her, pistol belt snug on her hip. She'd ridden all night, through broken trails, shallow rivers, and dark woods where coyotes cried like widows. Now she was here, alone. Ahead, Granger's men were already waiting. 3 of them stood near the jailhouse porch, rifles slung lazily, as if they didn't think she'd fight. They had no idea who they were dealing with. She touched the inside of her coat, Wade's letter still pressed against her heart. "You said live free," she whispered, "but not without you." 10 miles outside town, Bo Creeley tightened the last strap on Wade's saddle. Wade, pale but upright, swung one leg over the horse with a grunt. His wounded leg was braced with carved wood and wrapped tight, but his eyes held fire. Bo looked at him. "You sure about this, Coulter? You can barely ride straight." Wade's jaw clenched. "That town's where she is." Bo nodded once, then passed him a sawed-off shotgun. "1 blast. Make it count." Wade stuffed it into his coat, then took a deep breath. "Bo," he said, "you ever think we'd end up on the right side of the gun?" Bo cracked a smile. "Nope. But here we are." And with that, they kicked their horses and rode like thunder. Through the canyon. Not as outlaws, not as ghosts of the past, but as men chasing redemption. Evelyn dismounted slowly in front of the saloon. Every eye watched her. She walked with steady steps, hand never far from her pistol. Her boots echoed on the wooden boards. The saloon doors swung open. Inside, Granger stood behind the bar, glass in hand, smile like poison. Well, well," he drawled. "The little lady's got grit." Evelyn didn't blink. "Where is he?" Granger poured himself a drink. "You mean Coulter? Last I heard, he was howling in some canyon. Might have bled out by now." She stepped forward. "You lie as easy as you breathe," Granger chuckled. "I offer you a deal, miss. You come quietly. Live like a queen, or you make a scene and die like a dog." Her voice was ice. "I didn't come to bargain." She reached into her coat. Granger's hand went to his holster. But she didn't pull a gun. She pulled out Wade's badge, the same badge Granger had framed him for abandoning, and she slammed it on the bar. "Justice," she said softly, "is coming back to Clearwater." Just then, the saloon doors flew open again. Boots stomped in. Wade, bleeding, limping, alive. Behind him, Bo loaded his shotgun with a snap. Wade's voice filled the room like a whip crack. "She's not alone anymore." The silence shattered. Granger reached for his gun, but this time Wade was faster. 1 shot. Boom! The bottle behind Granger exploded, glass spraying his face. He ducked, shouted, "Kill 'em all!" But Evelyn was already moving. She rolled behind. A table, pistol blazing. Wade fired again, dropping one of the guards. Bo kicked over a barrel and laid down covering fire, shouting, "Evelyn, go for the back!" She dove, tumbling into the rear hallway. Bullets cracked past her ear. Outside, townsfolk screamed and scattered. Clearwater, once ruled by fear, had finally ignited, and the storm wasn't done yet. The saloon was ablaze with gunfire. Wood splintered, glass shattered, and the thick scent of smoke and gunpowder filled the air. Screams echoed down the street as the townsfolk ducked behind barrels and wagons. Wade moved like a ghost through the chaos, each step fueled by sheer will. His shoulder was bleeding, his leg barely holding, but his eyes burned with purpose. Grangers. Men scattered when Beau Creeley took the front steps, that double-barrel shotgun roaring like thunder. 2 men dropped before they even reached the door. Inside, Evelyn slid across the floor, flipped a table for cover, and fired again. One more guard fell, and the saloon echoed with his scream. Granger had retreated to the stairway, blood on his sleeve, rage twisting his face. "You should have run, Coulter," he shouted from the balcony above. "You should have stayed dead." Wade raised his revolver slowly. "I did die," he said, voice cold. "The day you took her." Evelyn stood beside him now, both guns raised. Granger's hand twitched. Bang! One shot rang out, clean and final. Granger staggered. He looked down at the crimson bloom spreading across his chest. His knees buckled. He collapsed on the balcony rail, then tumbled down the stairs, landing in the dirt like the snake he was. Silence followed. No more gunfire, just the crackle of broken glass under Wade's boots as he walked over to the fallen lawman. The town held its breath. Wade knelt, removed the badge from Granger's chest, the same badge that once belonged to him. He looked at Evelyn. She nodded, and he pinned it back on his coat, not as an outlaw, but as the law. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the mesas, the town gathered at the church steps. Wade stood before them, coat torn, hat low over his brow. Evelyn at his side, hands still shaking but eyes filled with fire. The mayor stepped forward. "We were wrong about you, Coulter," he said quietly. "This town owes you more than we can say." Wade nodded, jaw tight. "You don't owe me. Just don't forget what fear can cost." He turned to the crowd. "From this day forward, Clearwater ain't run by fear. Not by guns, not by bribes. We build something better. Together." Cheers rose, hesitant at first, then stronger, louder, real. For the first time in years, hope walked freely through the streets. That night, Wade stood by the old windmill behind the church, looking out over the town. Stars shimmered overhead. Evelyn joined him quietly, wrapping her arms around his waist. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. He pulled her close. "You saved me. Again." She smiled against his chest. "So, what now?" He looked out at the wide, open land beyond. "We start over. We build something that lasts. A ranch. A home." She looked up. "With me?" He kissed her forehead gently. "Always." They stood in silence for a while, the wind tugging at their clothes, carrying away the last traces of smoke and sorrow. Above them, the church bell rang once. Clearwater was free, and so were they. Some say they still ride together, Wade and Evelyn Coulter, the gunslinger and the woman who stood alone when the world turned its back. And when folks speak of Clearwater, they don't speak of blood or fear anymore. They speak of the day justice rode back into town. And the woman who lit the fire. Subscribe to Luminous Tales for more stories that stir the soul.